Today, I'm joined by Scrum.org professional Scrum trainer Duncan Maddox, and we are taking a look at how to have a great retrospective first time, every time. Let's get into the video. The sprint retrospective. This is the team's chance to scribble on some post-it notes, play some games before they get back to doing the real work. It's time for a bit of downtime at the end of the sprint, correct?
That sounds fantastic. That's not exactly how I describe it. I'd say that the sprint retrospective is the team's key opportunity to inspect and adapt the way that they work and come up with some kind of improvement for the next sprint. What is it that we're inspecting and adapting? And that can be anything which helps the team produce a better quality product. So they're looking to improve the way that the people work together, their processes, their practices, tools, technology, and teamwork. So what we're looking at doing is, what can we improve about the next sprint? Anything about the way that we work together.
We say it's the team's opportunity to improve. This is the Scrum team, not the development team. It's an opportunity for the product owner, Scrum Master, and the development team to have an open, honest discussion about how they work together.
And a lot of people think that this belongs to the development team, but the cause of conflict within the team could be between the product owner and the development team. So unless we're inviting the entire team, we're just missing an opportunity.
And the retrospective's owned by the whole team, not owned by the Scrum Master. A great team facilitate their own retrospective and don't need a Scrum Master to call the shots and run the show. It's owned by the team for the whole Scrum team.
And a lot of the conflict initially could be between the business and the technical teams, between the product owner and the development team. So we really need the whole team there to get full advantage of this event.
And this is where Scrum's flat hierarchy comes into play. Everyone's equal, everyone has an equal say, everyone's opinion is equally valid. There's no one in charge of the team or of the retrospective.
Yeah, so the roles have their own responsibilities and accountabilities, but all in all, the team is responsible for product development.
Yeah, any random developer on the team, his input or her input is as valuable as the product owner. They're literally on an even footing.
They're all responsible for looking at how they can improve the way that they do their work. In order to get there, I think we need a base level of trust. We need that transparency. So we need to all agree what's gone well, what's gone badly. Have we achieved the sprint goal? Did we fail to achieve the sprint goal? And then we need that culture that the team feel they can speak up. They've got that trust, they've got the courage, they've got the openness. Because without all of this in place, you're not going to be having the right conversations.
A great foundation for the team to have a productive retrospective is the Scrum values, which you mentioned there. Courage, focus, commitment, respect, openness. All of those play a key role in the retrospective. It's the foundation upon which their discussions are based and how they can inspect and adapt.
Absolutely. Scrum is an empirical process control framework. It just doesn't work unless you have that culture in place.
One of the outputs of the sprint retrospective, as per the guide, is one concrete action for improvement that goes into the next sprint backlog. So something the teams will try. Why is it so important that they don't only inspect, but they also adapt? And why do teams often forget that?
Absolutely. This is an inspect and adapt opportunity. And although we all enjoy getting together and having a good whinge about things which aren't going well, the whole purpose of the retrospective is that we want to change things. We want to improve things. This is our inspect and adapt opportunity for our teamwork, our processes, and our tools. So every sprint retrospective, we should have an output of one thing we're going to improve for the next sprint.
And just like the increment itself, those improvements are iterative and incremental. Every improvement that comes out of the retrospective builds on all previous improvements. I've seen teams come up with a great idea for something to try, and they try it and it works. And then 3 sprints down the line, they're not doing that thing anymore and they're trying all of the other things.
It doesn't have to be a huge change. We can just make a small 15% change. What small thing can we do better in the next sprint such that we're just a little bit better? Our teamwork is a little bit better. we're using the technology just a little bit more effectively. How can we improve the overall quality of the product by just a little bit?
Can you think of an example of that, of a team that you've worked with that have tried just one small change that's turned out to have an unexpectedly massive improvement in terms of the way they work?
I mean, typically it might be the commitment to the daily scrum, for example. They'll realize that they failed to achieve the sprint goal, and then they'll ask themselves why. And if they're honest, one of them might say, I never thought we were going to accomplish the sprint goal. I always knew we were going to fail. I just never spoke up. And then you'll be looking for the team to buy into this commitment, this courage, that the next sprint and going forwards, that they will speak up. Because unless people are honest like that, then you're never going to get the improvements that you want. What about you? Have you ever seen a radical improvement come out of the sprint retrospective? What would be one of your favorite examples?
In general terms, I've found that specific and actionable outputs really, really help. So often teams might say, we're going to communicate better. We didn't communicate enough this sprint. I've seen the real improvements when they've said how. When this specific scenario occurs, I'm going to go and talk to so-and-so, or whatever that thing is, making it more specific.
So how do we get these outcomes? What kind of tips, what kind of techniques can we give Scrum Masters so that they can facilitate a good sprint retrospective?
Any technique which encourages the teams to use the Scrum values and use empiricism for their advantage, and any technique which engages the team. So all of these activities we try, the Scrum happiness timeline, how happy people are throughout the sprint, our various post-it notes and sailboats, are all simply tools to engage the team. So I don't think there's one best method. A Scrum Master needs to read the room, needs to understand what motivates and engages team members, and try and find techniques which appeal to them. What works for one team won't work for another team.
Absolutely. So you can try mad, sad, glad, or we want to stop, start, and continue, or we liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. These are just ways of promoting conversation within the team.
We want to avoid retrospective fatigue, which if every time we just do liked, loved, longed for, the team are going to start doing zombie scrum. They're going to start going through the motions. We want to encourage creative thinking and outside of the box thinking, whatever that means.
I know that you've had a lot of success with bullshit buzzers. If the culture of the team, if they trust one another to do that, just getting them to press the button if they think people are talking for too long or going off topic.
If we think about the 5 dysfunctions of a team, we've got vulnerability-based trust. And the retrospectives are a great opportunity for teams to develop and improve their vulnerability-based trust by being the person to hold your hand up, being the person to do something a bit out of the norm that you wouldn't expect somebody to do. Like, for example, the bullshit buzzers, telling somebody who might in the organization have more experience than you to, hey, this perhaps isn't what we should be talking about right now. However, we could talk about this, all of that kind of stuff. Vulnerability-based trust can be built in the retrospective, and that could be one of the best outcomes for a team.
Nice. So I think my preferred facilitation technique, if I have just one, would be, lean coffee or open space, which is very similar. Just driving the team to pick their agenda. What do they want to talk about? Giving them some silent time to pick topics and then working through those issues. And if you have that trust in place, I think the team will be quite keen to come forward with their ideas. The more that they can see things changing, the more they'll come up with ideas on improvements about how things could be even better.
That's absolutely right. How about just shutting up? That is a great technique for the Scrum Master to use in a retrospective. Use the 7-second rule. If there's silence in the room, allow that silence to exist. Give the team time to compose their thoughts and think. One of the best things a Scrum Master can do is shut up and let the team get on with it, assuming they understand the purpose of the event. If the team know why they're there, Scrum Master doesn't have to be talking.
I think we should rename this video as, just shut up. Not talking is incredibly powerful, especially if you've asked an awkward or difficult or challenging question. If there's silence in the room, it's very tempting to step in and fill that silence. The most powerful thing you can do as a Scrum Master is stop talking, give them time to think about the question you've asked.
100%. I completely agree. The best thing a Scrum Master can do is ask the difficult questions that need to be asked and then shut up and let the team deal with the consequences of that.
How do you facilitate a good sprint retrospective? You make sure the right people are in the room. You make sure they understand why they're in the room, that they're looking for a process improvement to take into the next sprint. Then you need to make sure that we got the right culture of trust and courage and transparency in place. And after that, you can use any of these facilitation techniques to try and encourage the team to drive the meeting so that their suggestions are brought forward.
We ensure the team are focused on improving stuff. We ensure the team have the courage to take whatever action needs to be taken.
And as Scrum Master, then we just need to make sure that these process improvements happen so that the team can see things are continuously getting better.
Hey, that's a really good point. Post-retrospective transparency and inspection and adaptation. Going into the next sprint, the Scrum Master needs to make sure that this stuff is actioned in some way and just keep an eye on how things are going. And if the team aren't actioning the thing they agreed to do, maybe just ask that question again and then shut up again.
And then shut up again.
Scrum Masters, shut up. So there we go. Some top Scrum tips for having a great retrospective every time. If you found this video useful or informative, please go ahead and click that little like button and have a think about subscribing to the channel. This has been the Scrum Master's Guide to the Galaxy.
I feel like your heart isn't in it today.
So that's the what. That's what the teams are doing. How can teams do this? No?
I got nothing. Okay, I hated that one less.
High praise indeed.